Welcome to the SudokuCon Twitch channel. I'm James Sinclair, and I'm joined here with the obscure up-and-coming setter, Marty Sears. Marty, thank you for
Hello.
joining us. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah,
How
glad
are
you
you
could
doing?
join us. Pretty good. I guess I wanted to mention right at the top, for anybody who didn't see the announcement this week, we have chosen a location and date for SudokuCon 2026. It's going to be in Manchester in the UK, end of August, or end of July, start of August. Um, so I'm really looking forward to that. Marty, I think there's any chance that you might be there?
Definitely, yeah. When did you say the dates were?
Like July 29th to
Yeah,
August 2nd, give or take a day, somewhere
I,
in there.
I think I can keep that free. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I was I had a lot of FOMO last year when I saw who all the different people that turned up. So yeah, I kind of wish I'd gone to that one. But now it's in Manchester. I've got no excuse.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be my first trip to the UK. So this is episode 4 of our Anatomy of a Puzzle series, where we do a deep dive into the story behind a particular puzzle and, talk about whatever else comes up. So, Marty, you want to talk about the puzzle that you chose?
Okay, yeah. So it was very tricky for me to choose one. There's a lot of different ones that I was considering, but I went for to begin with one called Not On, which is quite a recent one. Um, and I think the reason I chose it was because I wanted to talk a little bit about the setting of whichever puzzle you solve, and this one had a few interesting little parts to talk about in the setting. And I had a few kind of images that I'd taken of it as I went along that I can show as well. And I think it's quite a good puzzle. I hope you like it. It's not too difficult. I think it's a 3-star puzzle. Um, so yeah, like one of my recent ones that I probably like most.
Yeah, since we talked about doing this, this is the one that you mentioned, and so I've been avoiding it, and so
Good.
I'm kind of looking at it now for the first time. I, I do see that "not on" is a palindrome, so I see what you did there.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess unless we have any more preamble, I'll go ahead and read the rules. So normal Sudoku rules apply. Draw a single snaking line connecting two particular cells to be discovered, which forms a palindrome, a sequence of digits that read the same in either direction. Palindromes should pass through the centers of cells and may move both orthogonally and diagonally, but may not branch or cross itself. Uh, Arrow's digit indicates how many cells it points toward that are not on the palindrome, not including the arrow cell itself. And digits and cages do not repeat. And the clue in the top left corner indicates the total sum of digits in the cage that are not on the palindrome. So So as I'm looking at this and trying to process all of that and also keep talking at the same time, um, and yeah, nothing is really standing out to me as an obvious starting point. Obviously, the 4 cage is so, all right. What does this mean? That there's at least one digit in this cage is on the palindrome, and so the 43 cage is gonna this is gonna be the sum of every digit except two. So we're saying that the two in this cage is on the palindrome, and I'm guessing it has to be on the perimeter of the cage.
Yeah, you're thinking about the right kind of things.
um, I see Talkat is asking what inspired you to set this.
So yeah, the let me have a think. this was one that was on my to make list for quite a long time. So I've got this, I've got a list in my phone of ideas as I think of them, go into a little list on my phone where it's actually become a very long list now. Just basically, I seem to have ideas for new puzzles quicker than I can possibly make them. So the list just gets longer and longer instead of getting shorter. I do like it when I can cross one off, but yeah, it just seems to get unmanageable. This one was on there for about 2 years, and yeah, it just came from the title. They as I'll talk about it later on when I talk about the setting of it. But yeah, I made another puzzle, um, yeah, 2 years ago called Must Sum, which is also a palindrome puzzle with a palindromic title. And yeah, my brain was just thinking, what other palindromes could I do that are kind of like potentially going to be relevant to the rules, not just any old palindrome, but yeah, something that could actually like make sense based on what you have to do in the puzzle. And
Mhm.
I thought, wouldn't it be good if you have some kind of path that has clues about things that are not on the palindrome, which is what you see here. Um, and yeah, I'll tell you later why it took 2 years for me to get around to finishing it.
All right. So,
But yeah, Tom.
okay, so I'm seeing, I guess all three of the digits in the 19 cage have to count toward the sum. Same with
Mm.
the 11 cage. So I'll use green to mark not palindrome. And now I'm trying to, like, how does this 15 cage work? Because this is going to be a maximum of 3, and this is a maximum of 4, which, I mean, I guess kind of decide if it's possible for even one of these cells to be on the palindrome. Yeah, I guess not, because if not, then these would be 2 and 3,
Mm.
and then you can't get to 15. And then they have to be different, so this one has to be not on the palindrome.
Nice. That is the intended starting point, so that's always satisfying when, when someone starts in the right place. Feels like I've
Yeah, I mean,
done a good job of telegraphing it when I see someone start in the place that I was hoping.
yeah, and then this is one where it's. Yeah, I mean, as I pointed out, there's kind of a bunch of things where maybe I can
Yeah,
find something. I mean, I think I
yeah.
can, a 19K test have an 8 or a 9, and neither of these digits can be greater than 6. So there's that, but that's not a starting point.
Mm.
So, and now knowing you figured out a way to use the whole grid. So I'm guessing the palindrome's going to kind of come through here and then snake all the way
Right.
around. But we'll see.
Interesting. Interesting you should say that. You know, one thing that I really love is when people are solving my puzzles and they like try and second guess what I've been thinking. I think
Right.
I've developed a bit of a reputation for like sneaking in uh silly little deductions and bits of uh bits of mischief and nonsense. So yeah,
Well,
quite a lot of the time.
that is something
Oh,
that is something that I wanted
yeah,
to ask about because
yeah,
do you tend to go through a lot of revisions? Because as I imagine how to put together something like that, I would think that it would have to be multiple drafts and kind of finding something and working backwards from it.
yeah. It definitely depends on the puzzle. As I will explain later, this one you're actually right with this one. It did take two drafts. So this is like the V2 of this puzzle. I made a first one which kind of worked, but I wasn't satisfied with. It's so funny. Like when you do a V1, it's like I don't think it's ever like a wasted it's never a waste of time having done that because you learn so much from going through that first draft. And then usually what I find is you do the second draft and it's like a lot more speedy. You go straight through it and you kind of remember all the things you liked from the first version. You kind of you just like all the things you've learned just makes it a lot smoother set the second time. And that was the case
Mhm.
here. Yeah, kind of kept all my favorite bits, found some new bits, got rid of like the bits of filler that I didn't really care too much about. And yeah, it was quite a good example of that. This puzzle, I think.
Yeah, it's I should start doing that. I tend to just make the first draft and then
Yeah,
just set it aside, and then by the time I look at it again, I've
always
kind of
good.
forgotten everything.
Yeah, like I was
It's,
going to ask with your puzzles, like some of them, some of the logic in them is so intricate. I just can't ever sometimes imagine like how you kind of got that soul path so slick. Like, yeah, I would have thought that you would have like been doing several drafts sometimes. Is that not the case, no?
not really. I think when I revise a puzzle, it's usually to work on the kind of later stages.
Hmm.
But yeah, usually I just kind of play around with stuff until I find a break in, and then like once I
Yeah,
find it, it's kind of like set in stone.
yeah.
But yeah,
It's
so I made this 8 cages green because there's an 8 down here, so we're not
yeah.
going to be able to make this work with one cell. So I guess this is going
I
to be
don't know.
5 or 6.
When I think about different styles of setting, it's always really interesting to like look at different people's styles. Some people definitely have very distinctive styles, and I always think of you as someone that is. I think you approach things quite differently from me, in a really interesting way. Like 'cause in the way that I can't ever imagine setting the sort of puzzle that you make. Like I can't think how I would go about that. Um, I know you basically, yeah, you quite often will stick with standard constraints. Um, and it seems to be a lot more about it seems to be that you've come at it from a place of uh, little little very clever like interactions that you've found or thought of in advance and played around with and then just like yeah found these little really good logical sequences. That's never how I usually start making a puzzle. I always usually come at it from a place of like a concept or think about like yeah a rule set that I haven't seen done before or maybe a rule set I have seen done before, but I think of like a different angle that I could do with it, and then I start playing around with it after that. Yeah, it's,
Mhm.
but like yeah, you always like really admire people that do puzzles just using standard constraints and make them really interesting. And yeah, you're always the number one person I think of when I think of those kind of puzzles.
Well, it's very kind of you to say. I sometimes yeah, I feel like I need to branch out more. Yeah, so I guess that's another thing I wanted to ask. I mean, when the Scojo's Imposter Challenge just happened,
Oh
we
yeah,
both participated, and obviously a lot of that is thinking about what your style is. So
yeah.
how would you describe the Marty Sears style?
Well, firstly, I just want to say how fun that challenge was again this year. Last year, it was like one of the most fun, one of the most fun 2 weeks of my life, of like 2024 for me was that challenge. Anyone who doesn't know about it, Kojo, yeah, last year and this year has put on this really fun challenge over 2 weeks where anyone that participates has to create two puzzles. First week, they set a puzzle in their own style. So you think about constraints that you like or certain kind of stylistic choices that you would associate with your kind of usual way of setting. And yeah, you basically want to set a puzzle that people will recognize as being yours when they see it. And then the second week, you do an imposter puzzle. So uh, everyone that's participated will get randomly assigned somebody else's name that uh, they have to try and imposter basically. They have to impersonate their style make a puzzle that will fool other people to think that the puzzle is by that person and not you. And then after those two puzzles are submitted, yeah, over the course of a week and a half, Jojo's such like absolute Cooper spent like all day for about 7 days in a row solving 96 puzzles, no, 98 puzzles. There's like 49 pairs of 49 people participating. That's two puzzles each. So yeah, took a long time.
That's insane that he did that in like a week.
Yeah, I know. Especially if it was me solving, it would probably take a month. Skojo is like a very quick and proficient solver. This yeah, still took him a week. Anyway, so yeah, it was really fun, and the person that I got assigned this time was Sujoiku, which I was very pleased to get because Sujoiku is like an amazing setter, really fun. Re I find it, like I found it not as challenging as I would find some people in that probably Sujoiku doesn't have like a really crazy out there kind of setting style. But he does like exploring like some really interesting constraints that I also like exploring. So yeah, I was very pleased to get that one. And in comparison to last year where I got Heliopolis, that was a lot more of a head scratcher for me because he's well known for making very difficult puzzles. And for me, I don't think I'm really known for making monstrous puzzles. I usually lean into like fun, uh, try and go for like a bit of novelty, try and go for smoothness of the solve path. And basically, when I'm setting, I'll just try and kind of sneak in as much kind of satisfying little tidbits as I can. I think about what I would find fun as a solver, and yeah, I can feel it. Like when I'm setting and I discover something. Usually, it's like not always things I've planned in advance. It's quite often it's just things that I discover when I'm playing around, and it'll be like, oh, that's fun. Yeah, I want to keep that in. Yeah. And then something else will pop up. Oh, that's even more fun. Yeah, definitely include that. So it's just like things that get that response in me, like, oh, I like that. I kind of assume that a lot of other people will like those same sort of things. And yeah, I guess I've just got a bit of a specific taste of which things make me laugh, make me find them satisfying, and then I think those are the things that people now associate with my puzzles a little bit. Rat Finks calls them MMMs, which is Mad Marty moments. So yeah, I think that's kind of my style stuff. I mean, in terms of constraints and things that I really, I think it's quite varied. Like I love all different kinds of puzzles. I really, my brain fits well with um, like things like quite geometric things. So things like this is like right in my wheelhouse. So it's like geometry, pathfinding, loops, um, shading puzzles. I really like yin yang, uh, chaos constructions where you have to find regions and how they all navigate their way around the grid. Love all that sort of stuff, and they're the kind of puzzles that when I'm solving, I tend to do a bit better with than when it's something really mathsy and analytical and abstract. Yeah, those sort of ones I will struggle with quite a lot, probably.
Yeah, you definitely have a skill with like path drawing type logic that I'm envious of. Whoever's running the SudokuCon account is, asked if you think it's fair to call you whimsical.
um, I think I would say that's the sort of word that other people can call you, isn't it? I don't think you'd say that about yourself necessarily.
Yeah.
But I can see why people would say that. Because yeah, like it takes a little bit of time to discover what your style is, I think. And in the first like 6 months of me setting, I guess I was trying out different things and I was looking at other people's puzzles that I liked and sometimes trying to set things like them. And yes, in that, if you look at some of my earlier puzzles, they were a bit more random and probably you wouldn't necessarily uh, know that they're by me as much as you might with some more recent puzzles. Um, yeah, I do think there's an element of whimsy and silliness and nonsense, which I kind of try and lean into a little bit now because I guess that's what people seem to be enjoying about my stuff a little bit. It's funny though because I think I've got this like secret desire to set really hard puzzles sometimes, like that are kind of out of my comfort zone. The reason is because when I first started watching Cracking the Cryptic, when was it? Like summer 2022, so we're talking like 3 years ago now. Yeah, I was getting into it like through watching puzzles by people like you and Talker and some of the really tricky ones by Jay Dyer and Zeta Math and Christopher Mathel. All these like really complex puzzles that they're the reason that I like really got hooked on the channel. So just seeing Simon get stumped and go through these like really arduous and yeah, just like half an hour break-ins trying to find the first step and just getting completely baffled and then like eventually finding the break-in, and I just like found that really interesting to watch. So yeah, like I really love it when I can make something that's that challenging. I do think that quite often my puzzles, like when I think they're really challenging, people sometimes find them a bit easier than I expect. So they tend to get when I set them like as like maybe a 4-star puzzle on LMD, it will generally get voted down to a 3-star puzzle. If I put it as a 3-star puzzle,
Yeah.
it'll get voted down to a 2-star puzzle. So yeah,
Yeah, that
I think it's
happens to
pretty
me too.
yeah. I think well some people are the other way. Some people like underestimate their uh how difficult something is. So I think a lot of people have the thing where they they kind of a setting and they assume that because they can do it, everyone else is going to find it pretty easy. So they deliberately make it harder, and they sort of don't realize how hard they've made it. Whereas with me, as anyone who's seen me try and solve on stream will know, I'm not a brilliant solver. I'm not very quick. Um, I mean, I can usually get things after a while, but I take my time with it. I just finished a chin strap puzzle today that I'd been working on for about 3 weeks. That he sent me. He sent me 3 weeks ago saying, can you test this for me?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll give it a go." And I've only just finished it today, and I feel really bad about that. But sometimes I just can't spot little like bits of logic that are quite obvious, really, to other people. Sometimes I just miss a really obvious. In this case, it was just I missed a pair in a column that I should have spotted.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's funny because people are, like quite often ask me like, I think they think I'm just being humble when I say I'm not a very good not a very good solver, and I just say like they kind of don't really believe me, and they say like you set these like quite intricate puzzles. How can you like not be a good solver as well? And yeah, for me, it uses like two different parts of my brain really. Like when I'm in solving mode, um, yeah, it's like you're you're problem solving, aren't you? And you're trying to find this like one specific path usually that someone's discovered in advance and then set up for you. And there's like a right and a wrong to it really, and you're trying to find the one path through the puzzle, and it's not always easy to get on the same wavelength as somebody else really. Um,
Right.
Whereas when I'm setting, I'm in much more of a creative space and like a discovery kind of mode. And yeah, like quite often my setting will start off with like just playing around for a bit, seeing what I can find. And like at that point, it's like a blank canvas, isn't it? And as you probably know as well, and it's you're playing around and there's no right answers yet. You're just seeing what you can find. And I think the chances of you finding something are generally quite good, like compared to a solver trying to find one specific right answer. When you're
Mhm.
setting, yeah, there's like all number of interesting things you might find. And you just sort of happen to find one, and then you go, yeah, I'll keep that. And then you spot something else, and then you keep that. And yeah, by the time you know it, you found enough nice things that kind of made a solve path. But yeah, like
Mhm.
there's probably all manner of other possible puzzles that you didn't spot.
So
Do you
so I
kind of
saw.
find it like that as well?
Well, let me just say, I saw Talkat giving me a hard time about how slowly I'm working through this puzzle. So
I'm sorry, I'm
it's
probably
it's because
distracting
I'm
you.
it's because I'm listening to you talk. But yeah,
Yeah.
let me just so so in this 19 cage, one of these two digits has to be six. And so we're gonna have six cells not on the palindrome, either here or here. And if it's here, then that implies that the palindrome is confined entirely to this region, which, in addition to being very unlikely, would also break this clue and probably breaks for other reasons. So I'm pretty sure that this has to be the six, and the palindrome has to start here and go out this way.
That's good.
So I'm sorry, what were you asking?
Yeah, I was just asking whether you find a difference as well between your kind of setting brain and your solving brain. Like, and your, would you say like you have a strong preference over setting versus solving in terms of the way that your brain works?
I mean, to me, they're pretty similar. Like
Yeah,
when
interesting.
I'm, when I'm setting a puzzle, I'm kind of solving it as I go, which I
Yeah,
think is part of why I tend to not do a whole lot of drafts because I mean, not that it's always perfect the first time, but it's like I've kind of put it together as if it's a puzzle that I'm solving. So
yeah,
it's often.
that's really interesting. Yeah, like obviously I know what you mean. I kind of am the same way. I'm solving, but I think the difference is that you're solving without there yet being a right answer, right? Or without there being like a finished puzzle. So you're kind of like really strange. You're sort of discovering, and it's almost like sculpting. You're like you've got that like, big lump of clay, and you're just right. You're taking little bits away, like don't want that bit, don't want that bit, and then you're shaping a little bit here, and you but without knowing what you're making, kind of like usually I've got a kind of vague idea of what I'm trying to do. Like if I come up with a concept, I kind of know I might have an idea for a break-in or a certain piece of logic that I want to include. And then, yeah, as
Yeah.
I find more, yeah,
Yeah. Palpably points out that I did not consider that the palindrome could go out diagonally, and in fact, I'd
it
forgotten the rules.
can,
I thought it couldn't go diagonally, but yeah,
yeah,
that's right. It could.
yeah. This happens in Rat Run quite a lot, as people often forget things go diagonally.
Good. Okay, and then yeah, so I just filled in these clues because yeah, once I got a digit on the palindrome, these became fours,
Mm.
and then also the five. Yeah.
I find it quite interesting seeing other people solving and seeing, like different people's solving techniques or just sort of where their mind goes first because everyone's really different in that respect. Even if you just like watch Mark versus Simon on Cracking the Cryptic, like, they're quite different in the way that they approach puzzles.
Hmm.
So I'm quite interested just to see. I've never seen you solve anything before, so quite interested to see how you're going about it. And
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Most people haven't. I've only ever done a handful on camera.
interesting, yeah. How did you feel about that in
So
advance? Did you find it quite a daunting thing to do?
I mean, it's fine. It's yeah, I mean, it's not something that I'm ever going to do regularly, but it's fun to do.
Me
It's
neither.
something I should probably
Yeah,
work on more. So this digit could be 1, 2, or 9. It obviously can't be 9, and it can't be 2 because that's going to require another 2 somewhere. And that so putting 2, 9 in this cell resolves the 11 cage.
where? Oh, 2 9. I see. Right.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's not a crucial step.
No, I wouldn't say so.
So there has to be a 3 in the 4 cage now, so that's going to resolve this. Now, yeah, I was trying to work out what I can do with this box.
Mm.
Because I guess, yeah, these two digits are going to be in the 8 cage. Because even with the palindrome rule, we still have digits can't repeat in a cage. I guess the only immediate thing that tells me is that they can't be 9, which does put a 9 here. Alrog is giving me a hard time for ignoring the 43 cage. I mentioned earlier that there's a 2 in there on the palindrome. I don't really know what else I can do with that right now.
I guess there's something you can do with it. Probably not going to be massively helpful yet.
All right. So I guess so these two clues up here tell us that the palindrome at least gets into column 2. I guess I also know that because one of these is a palindrome cell. Oh, more people in the chat are wanting me to green some cells in the 43 cage. All right.
There we go.
So I guess I'm curious. How did you get started with the? I mean, did you solve a lot of puzzles before you started setting them? And was it through cracking the cryptic or somewhere
Um,
else?
so I've always been into puzzles, even when I was really young. And if you want, I can show you the sort of thing I used to make when I was little. I used to do stuff like this. I used to make like maze books. There we go. I used to do like this kind of stuff. It's just like you might be able to get an idea of where Rat Run comes from. I used to basically be obsessed with mazes and puzzles when
Yeah.
I was little. Absolute nonsense. Um, but this one is a book called The Monster Maze, and this whole book is like one maze, so all the pages like link up via doors, and each of these little doors tells you which page to go to. So it's like a computer game as you're making your way
Oh,
through. And there's little puzzles on certain pages as well. So it's like little logic puzzles to solve. What else? Little stuff like, do you remember these ones where you have to save the dots and you get a little picture? That the picture that's revealed there tells you which page to go to when you get to that door. There's probably a little crossword in there somewhere. Word, word puzzle there. So that's the kind of kid I was, basically. Always, my brother was out climbing trees and I was at home drawing, making puzzles. But yeah, in terms of like Sudoku, um, I did a few when they first came out. Was it like 2005 or something? But yeah, I think like a lot of people in the community found like classic Sudoku maybe a bit limited how interested I still was in it after I'd done a few of them. They kind of were a bit sameish after a while. And I never
mhm.
really didn't know anything about variant Sudoku. I guess it wasn't even a thing back then, was it? But I didn't find out about it until 2022. So kind of I know it had already been going quite a while since I think they started in 2017, didn't they, CTC? And then they got very big
Yeah,
during
something like that.
lockdown and stuff. But yeah, I was came to it a bit later than some of you guys. Yeah, as I said, like when I first started watching in 2022, yeah, some of the first people that I can remember watching were like the likes of you and Toolcat. Um, And there was one puzzle in particular that I remember got me hooked, and that puzzle was called Self-Determination, and it's by Stefan Burer. I don't know if you remember it, but
Sounds
it was just
familiar.
an 8 by 8 grid, and it just had one number. I think it was a number 2 or number 1 at the bottom of it, and that was it. And it was just it's kind of an indexing puzzle, and it was just really amazing the way that yeah, it just like there was like a chain of events that like kind of what am I looking for? The word recursively started to fill itself in. And Simon is a classic one where like Simon just spent about 45 minutes being like incredulous that it could actually be solved. He thought Mark was trolling him. So it was, yeah, a little bit like the Miracle Sudoku video in that perspective. It's just like unbelievable that it could be done. And then he found like a few bits of like really global abstract logic that would be required to solve the whole puzzle. And yeah, like it was very tricky one. Like that sort of thing is just like way over my head in terms of like what I would actually probably be able to come up with setting. But like that's at the same time, that's the kind of thing I really love watching on the channel, and that's what got me hooked. And I spent a few weeks just like going back watching loads of old videos on the channel, and it's like I never at that point thought I would start setting them. Um, Even though like I spent a lot of, as I showed you, like a lot of time when I was younger making puzzles. They were kind of like more fun little silly puzzles really rather than anything too taxing. But yeah, when once I got hooked on the channel, it didn't take me that long to get hooked, maybe over the course of 2 months in summer 2022. I kind of thought, yeah, I've got to try and get a puzzle on the channel. I think I knew how much I would love to see something on there and just to see like something that I'd created thumping Simon. That was kind of my little dream. And
What
so
was your first feature? Do you remember?
first first feature was actually my first attempt at a puzzle, which I couldn't believe. I got very lucky. Um, the first puzzle I made was called the Magic Column, and it wasn't even a Sudoku. Yeah, as I said, I didn't really have any like Sudoku experience before that. So I didn't. You asked if I'd done a lot of solving. Like, I hadn't. I still haven't really. Like I don't solve that much. A lot of my inspiration comes from just watching other people solve the channel. Because as I said, like solving generally takes me quite a long time. It takes up quite a lot of my time to do because I'm not quick at solving. So I generally want to spend a lot of my time setting and being creative and making new content really. But also I do obviously get that setting solving things makes you get better at setting as well. So I do like helping other people with like testing their puzzles and things. Because a lot of them are very generous with testing mine, so kind of like to give back a little bit in that respect. But yeah, I'm maybe not the best choice of tester for people. But yeah, no, I do like seeing what other people do definitely, and but yeah, a lot of the way that I do that is through watching streaming and watching Kraken and Cryptic, which I still love watching like pretty much every night. It's just a really nice, relaxing thing to watch, and I'm just constantly amazed at like the different ideas that people have, and uh, yeah, just all the some constructions are just absolute genius. Like even in the last couple of weeks, there's been some really top ones. So yeah,
So
my
I feel
first
like
one. Go on.
I might be. I don't know if this is a bypass or what. It's a product that's kind of staring at the grid for a while, but I'm
Mm.
pretty sure this digit has to be 2 or 4. It can't be 5 because there's at least one palindrome cell in here, and it can't be 1 or 3 by Sudoku. So then that resolves the 6 cage.
Um, Let me think. I don't think that is a 2 or a 4. So I remember rightly. I don't always remember my puzzles exact. I haven't got the answer right here. I should have the answer next to me really, but I don't think that is a 2 or a 4 actually. If I remember rightly. I'm very happy for you to use the tick button, by the way, if you want to check if things are right. 'Cause,
Well, you know, it's not going to tell me
I
if
know you
that's right.
can't. Yeah, you can't. You can't with the pencil mark, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I guess I
I
don't
when
see what else it could be though.
um, so why do you think it's a 2 or a 4?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess maybe I wasn't counting these three cells at the bottom. Okay,
That'll do it. Yeah, when I'm
never
solving,
mind.
I will. I I have no guilt about using the tick button very liberally to check that I am on the right path. Don't mind doing a bit
Yeah,
of that.
yeah, I'll do that a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you
Um,
use active conflict checking?
yeah, I have the conflict checker on to see if, for me, like when I'm solving, the fun part isn't really the scanning, and the fun part isn't really going back and finding the mistakes that I've made and trying to fix them. So the fun part for me is just
Mhm.
finding the good logic and marveling at it and going, that's very clever. And yeah, for me, like that's part of the reason that I don't do a lot of solving, and a lot of the appreciation that I get of puzzles just comes from like I feel like I can equally appreciate a puzzle from watching it being solved than solving it myself. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Okay, all
Like
right.
when I do solve puzzles and I find something, and I do have that feeling of, oh yeah, feel that feeling of cleverness of having spotted the thing. Um, yeah, that's not the main thing that I enjoy about puzzles. It's more seeing what people have put into it and just like appreciating the genius of it and the clever little ideas and all that stuff. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, maybe you can help me understand what's going on with the 41 cage because
Okay.
we've got
So
one
the fourth.
palindrome cell at
Yeah.
least. So there are up to 7 digits that are counting to the 41 sum, which so I think it has to
Yeah.
be 7 digits, and the digits not being counted are 1 and 3. So
That sounds about right. Yes.
one and three would be the palindrome cell here, and then the other one is in the 8 cage.
So have you ruled out there being more than one palindrome cell in that cage potentially?
In the 41 cage, I don't know how
Yeah.
there could be because if we're only counting
Yeah.
6 digits, we wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
get to 41.
That's correct. So yeah. So now that you know that there's only one pink cell in that cage, you can probably work
Yeah,
out.
so I guess
Probably green. You can probably green some of the cells.
yeah. So this is where I'm not the
It's
expert at geometry, but I guess it just has to
funny.
go out like that, and then
It's
enter
so
there or
funny.
there.
That's the sort of thing that my brain is very good at. So like that kind of thing. I was saying it earlier about like people's biases of like what's easy and what's difficult based on what they're good at themselves. To me, that kind of just seems quite obvious. Um, it's just like a little geometrical thing of yeah, where does the path go? You know, there's only one cell in there, and you've got to get out of that row 7, column 4. So yeah, it's just that sort of thing just seems obvious to me, but yeah, completely get that everyone's minds work in different ways, and there's going to be like a gazillion things that people. There'll be loads of things that you think are obvious that I will struggle to find. So I just find that really. I'm always interested in how sort of psychology of it and how different people's minds work in different ways. Yeah.
Okay, so this is nice because so I kind of noticed the thing with 1 and 3 a few minutes ago, and then I was thinking, well, that puts them both in the 8 cage, and that can't work. But
Mhm.
I guess so. I guess one of them has to be on the palindrome, and then
Yep.
or or maybe both of them. Yeah, there's I don't know if Agent is still watching, but he's running a competition right now, which I'm part of, and the current round involves making a puzzle with some geometry, and it's
Oh.
so I've been
Is
working
it
on
as
that.
loose?
It's not my strength though.
Is that the prompt? Just to make a puzzle with geometry, or is
No,
it more
there's more to it than that.
right?
Uh,
Yeah, that sort of thing. What I really enjoy. What would you say are your like? You said you're sort of not naturally very good at the geometry side of things. So, are there any kind of particular elements of solving or setting that you find that your brain really deals with? Like, so any sort of puzzles that you generally, yeah, you find that you don't struggle with too much compared to this kind of stuff?
that I don't struggle with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Yeah, I guess my output speaks for itself. I think kind of
Yeah.
yeah, the sort of handful of standard rules that I'm familiar with and
Mm.
kind of spread out over the whole grid. I think I tend to see how things interact with each other pretty quickly
Yeah. That is
if
what
it's
I
a
would
rule set
say
that I
about
know.
when I think of your puzzles. It's all about the interactions that are so clever because, as you say, like you use standard constraints, so everyone kind of knows how those lines work on their own. But it's the way that you have these very elaborate kind of chains of reasoning that just bounce around the whole grid. I say Zeta Math is another person that I put in that category. Like his puzzles, like
Mhm.
with different types of line, and it just bounces around so nicely. Um, and yeah, I mean, I would really love to make more stuff like that. I do a bit of that kind of stuff, I guess, but the kind of complexity of the kind of deductions that I managed to put in, I don't think usually reaches that level of I don't know, just like masterfulness that I see in, yeah, some of your puzzles. Funny, like
Well,
yeah.
the kind of puzzle that you made for the quilt, the giant Sudoku puzzle, which I thought was really nice.
Oh, thank you. Well, actually, with that, I was trying to channel my James Sinclair with that. If that, yeah, that was basically my. I was kind of treating it like an imposter puzzle. I was trying to think how would James approach this. I did deliberately try and do it in your kind of style. I think I gave it a bit of diagonal symmetry, which I know you're fond of. Um, and yeah, I think I was fairly successful. It wasn't a very tricky one, but um, I enjoyed trying anyway.
So I've been still trying to figure out how this 41 cage works, and I guess the thing is that
Mm.
or really the 8 cage, and the other digit in the cage is here, and so we could be counting
Yeah,
3 and 5, but
that's
I can't put a
correct. Yeah,
5 there, and also
yeah,
if 1 and 3 are on the palindrome, then this would be 8, which also doesn't work. That
yeah.
resolved that,
Uh,
and then I think that gave me the 22 cage.
Easy 22 page. Yeah, yeah. That central box I found quite pleasing as I was setting it. It sounds like you just yeah you got through that in the intended way there of working out what needs to go in the 8 cage, and then yeah, it could either basically be 1 7 or 3 5, and yeah, the 5 can't go in that row
Yeah,
5.3. So
and now that we know there's a palindrome cell over here, so it's going to have to get into that part of the grid somehow. So it's got to go through that 4, I believe.
it's so funny, right? That's the kind of step that say you made this puzzle and then you gave it to me to solve. I'd probably struggle to find that because it's just weird. I don't know. I don't understand it, but I can spot things when I'm setting that I would struggle to spot when I'm solving. I don't really understand it.
You I guess you and I are similar in that we don't really post our puzzles publicly for testing often. What do you do for testing your
Yeah,
puzzles?
that's true. Yeah, I don't usually post it in the testing channels. Yeah, I've got quite friendly with a few people in the community now, and some of them are very generous with offering to test things. I don't always test things. Like if it's quite a simple puzzle, I think usually I can test it myself a few times, and I'm usually quite sure that there's not any big blunders in it. Having said that, there's been a few hiccups in the past where I have missed something, and it's made me think, okay, I should probably get tested every time. Um, but I still don't. Um, yeah, if it's a more complex puzzle, then I generally will. send it to somebody and ask if they don't mind testing it. And yeah, as I say, they're usually very generous and don't mind doing it. And they're usually people that are a lot better at solving than me and quicker. Hopefully, it doesn't take too much of their precious time up doing it, and hopefully they enjoy it as well. I think sometimes people like to see a little sneak preview of a puzzle before it gets released. Yeah, I don't generally like posting in the testing channel because I kind of I guess it's just a little bit of pride in a way where I want the majority of people to see the finished product um, once it's been fully tested and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of like the big reveal to be on LMD. It was like this is what I've been working on in my new one. How you feel as
Yeah.
well?
Well, actually, if it's a puzzle that I'm really proud of, that's kind of difficult, I do often post those for testing, and
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of that is for feedback, and especially if if anybody finds the rules confusing or anything. But I mean, honestly, it's a little bit just to kind of build buzz, like let a few people see
Mm.
it, and then maybe I'll be able to get some nice comments right after I post it. But
Yeah.
but with a lot of my easier ones, I kind of just feel like I don't want to waste people's time. It's like it's
Exactly. Yeah.
I know it's unique because I checked it with the solver and I think it's fine. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
need to.
Yeah. The solver can't always tell you everything. They can. I'm just trying to think of. There was one of the Rat Run episodes that had a mistake in it when I published it, and luckily Scojo spotted it within half an hour of me publishing it. Um, I mean, that had been, I think it had been tested as well, and probably somebody missed it, or maybe I made a little change after it had been tested and messed something up. But yeah, that was the sort of thing that the solver wouldn't notice because yeah, a lot of my puzzles are not really built into the solver. They're usually using some weird rule set that I've just come up with,
Mhm.
or like yeah, I don't know
So
how the solver would.
do you use solvers to the extent that you can?
When I'm setting, I do now. Yeah, I use Sudoku Maker now, so I I turn off a lot of the. You can you can tell it what to look for, can't you? So I basically
Hmm.
turn off a lot of the more advanced things like the what they call like raised bin jellyfish or whatever,
Oh yeah.
uh, and like some of the more advanced Sudoku techniques that it can use to narrow down the options. Like me, I don't really want a lot of those deductions to be part of my solve path really. Um, but yeah, I usually want my solve path to be more about the constraints that I put in, uh, and I find some of those things maybe make it a little bit more clunky. Um, so I turn those
Hmm.
off so that when I'm using the solver to narrow down towards a unique solution, it's basically using the kind of deductions that I would feel comfortable with if I was solving myself finding, which is basically just things like pairs and X wings and basic Sudoku stuff really, and then everything else
Hmm.
I use my own brain to do really basic. So in like with this puzzle, for example, the solver probably wouldn't be much help because it doesn't know about the whole you can ignore certain cells in cages rule.
Right.
It wouldn't, yeah. Um, and yeah, I'll show you later when I'm showing you some of my setting stuff. Before I use Sudoku Maker, I use Pen Pal. No, not Pen Pal. Penpa. What's Pen Pal is a different thing. Penpa I use, and before I used Penpa, I didn't know anything about any Sudoku software, so I just used Microsoft Excel. So I just made
Yeah.
a 9 by 9. I did this for about 6 months before I knew any software that I could use. I just set up like a 9 by 9 grid in Excel and literally just did everything myself, like typing in all the little pairs and the digits as I found them, and then deleting things and then going back through. And then sometimes I'd copy and paste it further down and then start a new version. I just end up with a document of like 10 grids going down, and it's sort of seeing it evolve. Um, in hindsight, that was very laborious, but you live and learn. It's quite fun.
Right. Okay, a bit of progress because I'm remembering that the 3 and the 8 cage is on the palindrome. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the one that's not counted toward the sum, and it can't be in this cell.
Yeah.
So now, once again, the palindrome has to get through here, so it has to be through that cell, which means the other 2
Mm.
digits in the 13 cage are counted.
I have to say, I'm quite impressed with your multitasking of being able to talk to me and solve at the same time. I can't do that. I can't even concentrate on what you're solving while I'm
Well,
talking.
thank you. I feel like I'm doing
So,
a mediocre job of both. So
no, so when I'm talking about setting or whatever, I'm just like thinking about what I'm saying, and then I come back and I'm like, oh, you solved another few cells there. I didn't even see you do that. Yeah, not the best multitasker in the world.
I guess at some point I need to start thinking about how the palindrome actually works, and I'm kind of
Mm.
expecting the 2 and the 43 cage to be the end of it, and that'll match up with this digit.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I don't.
That, I would say that is an appropriate time to start thinking about that. Yeah, I think that's when I started thinking about it when I was setting it.
Right. Yeah, is this as you're working on this, are you pretty confident that it's all going to work, or is there a point where you kind of just go ahead and make sure that that there actually is a solution?
As I said, this was my second version of it, so I'd already kind of proven the concept, and so with I don't know if you do this, but I find that a lot of puzzles fall into two categories. They're kind of ones that you can just set forwards, so you kind of set in the order that you solve it. So yeah, you kind of put a clue there, find the next deduction, put another clue in. If that breaks it, then you take that clue out. But you're basically setting it all in the right order, which that tends. I can imagine that a lot of your puzzles are set like that. If you're not using like any crazy things that are very constraining. But
Yeah,
some
pretty
puzzles,
much.
yeah, some rule sets that I come up with, definitely a few Rat Run episodes involve rule sets that are they're kind of in my head. They're kind of like really interesting ideas, but when I think about them, they're actually really constraining. To the point that I'm asking myself, like, is there even a grid that like could that even is there even like a unique solution for that rule set? Um, I've done a few collabs with Dorlier, and I think every time we've had this thing of like, so yeah, the other option is like basically solving a little bit backwards as well. So you start with a finished grid. So anytime that I think the rule set is going to be very constraining, to the point that it would be very difficult if I'm stepping forwards to like just luckily hit on a grid that works. Like sometimes I can just see that that's not going to happen in a million years. So you have to start with a finished grid. So basically, you don't worry about the rule set. You don't worry about the solve path at all. At that point, you're just looking for a grid that works, and then afterwards,
Mhm.
you kind of work a little bit backwards from that by putting in clues that then lead towards that grid that you found. So yes, a lot of the time, the first part of after I've done some initial playing around, the next part will be like, okay, just find a grid that works. Um, I don't think I needed to do that with this so much. This isn't a terribly constraining rule set. However, yeah, I'd already done the V1, and I kind of had an idea in mind for roughly where the palindrome would go. And then it's a case of yeah, putting in interesting kind of uh, clues here and there. And yeah, I sort of found as I was going along that I really like this rule set. I hadn't seen it done before. and especially with the cages as well as the arrows, kind of yeah, it leads to some quite interesting logic. And I was finding that like there's quite a few different ways that logic can be used. So hopefully, as you're going through it, you'll find that it's quite varied in terms of the logic, even though it's only basically got two rules in it, the palindrome plus
Yeah.
the two kinds of clue. I managed to sort of, I think, find yeah, some quite interesting different ways of using that logic, which is what I try and do. Like that's always the dream, really, of like finding a simple rule set, but that can be yeah, that can like yield lots of different types of logic. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was one thing that was missing from the V1 is that the V1 felt quite it worked, and I think it was all fair enough. Like the solve path was smooth, it worked as a puzzle, but I didn't find it very interesting, and I felt like I hadn't exploited the rule set as much as I could. So it was really a case of me being a bit of a perfectionist, which yeah, I mean I don't always do this. Like quite often I'll just be like, yeah, that'll do. I'm happy with that one. But yeah, with this one, I just really liked the rule set, and I thought, well, I kind of had some ideas of how I could do it better from what I'd learned from the V1. So I did, yeah, went
Yeah.
ahead and then made the second one in a couple of days. Yeah.
So Agent pointed out something that I don't think that I would have noticed, but whether the palindrome goes like this, or wait, no,
Mhm.
not that, but yeah, it could go like that or that, but it's always going to go through that cell. So I was able
Yes,
to make that one purple,
I'll take the
and
whole eight.
unrelatedly, I don't think it can ever get in here, so I made those green.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think Malrog made a cryptic comment earlier that I didn't really get at the time, but this 8 here means that
Mhm.
I can't put an 8 here, and so the
Ah,
palindrome has to get to
yeah.
column 1.
Yes, that's a great point. That's probably one of the hardest spots of the puzzle, I would say. That's quite often the part where people get a bit stuck is around here. So yeah, Mal, well done. Getting into column one, yeah, is something you will need to do
Yeah.
now.
Although, I mean, it could still take 3 cells in column 1 as far as I
Hmm,
can see.
maybe.
So this digit can't be 5, right? Yeah, we can't take 3 palindrome cells here.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. Malwalk, I could see, has said a little while ago, making it a palindrome is quite risky. That could break at any time, surely. So yeah, I think so I kind of had a rough line drawn in from the start. Yeah, I kind of was bearing in mind the whole way through that is a palindrome. So yeah, that was one of the things that kind of yeah, obviously in the solver in Sudoku Maker that has the palindrome line built into it, so you can get it to solve based on that as well. Um, so I don't think that was ever a problem really. Yeah, if we get to doing a second puzzle, if we've got time, that one was a lot more tricky in terms of that, in terms of it breaking every time I try to change something. Mm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
this one
yeah, we
really,
we can see if we can get through this one. Yeah,
yeah,
Powerfly just pointed out something obvious, which like now that the palindrome goes into column 1, it's got to go into column 2 twice, one on the way in and on the way out.
yes, yes,
That's
that's
gonna make that
pivotal.
6.
Mm.
So still not sure that I can rule out 5 here. Well, maybe I will be able to now.
Ah, nice.
So, all right, so two of these are on the palindrome. One of these is, surely it can't be that one. Arrow here means it's gonna have to be 5. So now the palindrome goes into row 1.
Yep.
And so I guess both of these are palindrome now because it's gonna have to go in somewhere and out.
Mm, nice.
Yeah, okay. And then so that's how I know that it uh,
Yeah,
doesn't do that, right? Okay.
exactly. Yeah. I'm just interested, James, have you ever set a puzzle that where you've had to find the grid before and work backwards a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I've done a number of 11 by 11 deconstructions,
Right,
and
yeah.
with those, I typically like find a break in that I like, and a little bit beyond that, and then just kind of try to find something that works, and then sort of work
Mhm.
backwards and meet in the middle.
Yeah. I quite enjoy that that part of setting actually. Sometimes just looking for a grid that works, like it's just like I don't know, it's almost like yeah, puzzle solving yourself, but without knowing if there's actually a solution or not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's been a few times where I've teamed up with Justin Batanza, who is he's a brilliant setter, and he's got a very good skill of he's a bit of a computer wizard, so he can do a lot of coding type stuff to sometimes find if there is going to be a solution with a certain set of rules. So yeah, there's two puzzles that I've worked with him on where I'd come up with a concept. I'd been spending a few weeks looking for a grid that worked and couldn't find one, but still I was kind of convinced there must be one. It was just a case of like uh, there were so many grids that didn't work compared to grids that did. So it was just like
Yeah.
trying to find a needle in a haystack. And but yeah, I thought there must be some. So yeah, on both those occasions, I asked him if it would be okay, like if he'd be able to potentially yeah use a bit of coding to see if there was a unique solution. And in both cases, he was able to find that there was, and then we yeah made some quite good puzzles that way. So it's quite a good little team teamwork.
Mhm. Okay. I can only put one palindrome cell in here, so this one has to be palindrome. And
Oh,
Alpha made a point about one being on the palindrome in box 2. I think that's what that's about, which is going to have to correspond to this.
oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's
So, am I able to think that this is the second to last palindrome cell?
so.
Yeah, I guess I.
Yeah. Yeah, at that point, I was trying to, when I was setting, I was trying to force that deduction. Basically, I obviously knew people would know the other end is a two, um, and that it needs to have a what? Yeah, you've obviously got that one in row six, column three. So I knew that you could kind of form the path by working out where the one can go at the other end of the palindrome. So
Mhm.
that six cage in the top row, yeah, that the sole purpose of that being there is just to get that one in box three to rule out there being a one anywhere else in that box. Uh, which
Yeah, that's
means the
nice.
one had to go in row three, column six, and that forces the end of the path then, and then from there, hopefully, it should all come together now.
Yeah, so I
But yeah, that
can probably count the length, right? Even if I don't know exactly where it is.
mm, yeah, that was another kind of deduction that
So
was
13.
missing from the with the V1 that I made, the first version. Yeah, it was kind of lacking a little bit of that kind of fun of path, um, of like path logic. A lot of it was just done by the cages and the arrows, and there wasn't really any where does the like how yeah trying to work out where the path goes, regardless of the
Mhm.
cages and the arrows. So I was quite happy to get that into this second version. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I like that kind of stuff. I find that satisfying. Paul kept saying that you and him did a collab where you used that method of was that when I was talking about Justin B and doing the find using coding to find the solution?
Um, I mean, I got something wrong. The puzzle we did together was second rodeo. Yeah, I guess we found the solved grid at some point and worked backwards from
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Sometimes you have to do that. Otherwise, you're just never gonna luck in on a unique solution.
So, I see what I did. Yeah, I was thinking that three was the digit on the palindrome here, but it's the one that's not.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's a tricky when you do that thing with finding a finished grid first. It can be a tricky balance because you're kind of going from the end, but usually you've like found some other logic that you really like as well at the beginning, maybe a break in. So you kind of want to
Mm.
keep that as well. So it's usually a case of like I think it's like working from both ends and sort of meeting in the middle. Um, it's strange.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of times I do it just so that I know that I'm not totally wasting my time. That like I have something to fall back on,
Yeah,
and then maybe I don't. I'll kind of like look at the finished grid occasionally, but I'm not like following it exactly necessarily. All right, so 9 here. Somehow this 8 cage still isn't resolved.
I found it. This is an example of the kind of thing I find funny. Is just that yeah, I noticed that those cells had two 6/8 pencil marks into them, and
Right.
I needed something there that would help kind of shape the path. And yeah, just putting an 8 cage in there, which can either be an 8 or a 2 and a 6, it kind of it's funny because it's like not really helpful in in a way. I think I
Right.
remember
Yeah.
when Skojo was solving it, I think he laughed at that bit as well because he was like, "That's not very helpful, is it?" And I kind of that's the kind of thing that's like I sort of like
This
to
is why
try
you
and
get
imagine
called.
how. I
This is
think
why
so.
people call you
Yeah,
whimsical.
I think so. I like to try and imagine people's reaction to these things and understanding them. It's so silly, like things that make you laugh as a setter. It's just so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very early revelation in all this, that like a puzzle can be funny.
Yeah, 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 definitely can. But you have to have a certain sense of humour. Yeah, it's like I think of a soul path as like a little story. Sometimes it's like a little journey you're going on, almost through somebody else's brain. It's like they've
Mhm.
they've come up with this really weird, abstract little series of events that you have to discover, and it's like, yeah, when you're solving, you're kind of going on that little journey that someone's made for you, and then you're getting an insight into
Yeah,
their brain as you're doing it.
yeah, exactly. All right, I'm just doing some arithmetic in the bottom corner because finding that easier
Oh
than
no!
figuring out how this
Oh,
palindrome finishes up.
I just missed how you did that. Do you mind just undoing a few steps? I just want to see what you did there because I
With
was
the
talking
12
and
page.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, I just filled in the options, and I know this
Um.
can't be 9. And then yeah, I was looking at like, well, if I put 5 here, then this is 1, and this would have to be 6, so this can't be 5.
Hmm, okay. That's a bit different from what I would have expected there. I'm not sure if you done a leap or can you go back a little bit further if you don't mind? Um, is that I don't feel that should have been guessable yet. So as I'll explain later, I spent quite a bit of time on the ending here, trying to make sure that a certain deduction was necessary to do to get the ending.
You want me to
So,
go back
okay, you
more?
got some. Yeah, go back a bit more. I think you might have. Hmm, should basically be left with a 5-9 pair in row 2 column 4 and row 2 column 5. It should be a 5-9 pair that's not resolvable just yet. Um,
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, I got a
like,
3-5 pair here, but maybe what was
uh
the?
yeah,
And then
I don't think you
I
should
took.
have that. I don't think you should
Okay.
have that 9 there yet. Um, I think that should be enough, hopefully. Um,
All right. Yeah. So I
so
got the 2 at the end of the
yeah.
palindrome, which puts 9 there, and then I think that gives me 9 in box 4, right?
Um, can the
Or
9
oh,
be?
okay. I see, because it could be in the 4 cage and
Yeah,
on the
it could
palindrome.
be getting
Okay.
ignored in that page. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got that wrong really early on when I was looking at these cages, and I decided that 9 had to be in one of these cells. Of course, I forgot that it could easily be in here and on the palindrome.
Getting ignored. Yeah. Um, I wasn't paying attention. I was I was too busy yapping away.
Well, yeah. This is my solving style. I tend to be kind of fast and
That's cool.
reckless.
That's cool. That's the sort of thing where I'm glad it was your mistake and not mine. So I felt when we found the mistake that you made, I felt a little bit of relief there. Even though I've seen a few other people solve this, and I was quite confident it wasn't a blunder on my
Right.
part. Still have a little moment of panic, like, oh no, what have you found that no one else has found?
Okay. Okay. So I can still put 3 here because I know now that it's not on the palindrome earlier. Now that has to. Didn't
Nice.
mean to click that. So that has to be green, I
You
believe.
can click that if you like.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have qualms about it, but that was a misclick. So now this is going to be the next digit on the palindrome, which is 5 or 9. Okay. Yeah, I can still put 4 here. I think I backed out of that earlier,
Yeah,
but
that's
that was right.
definitely placeable. Ah, Sujoiku likes your clean solving style. I agree, it's
Yeah.
very neat.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
the not doing a whole lot of pencil marking. It's like
yeah.
a, a lot of my solving is either testing my own puzzles or testing puzzles that people have submitted for my newsletter or looking for puzzles that I might recommend. And so for in all of those cases, I'm kind of thinking about like, does this have a clean solve path? And so I kind of,
Mm,
have gotten in the habit of trying to do it without a whole lot of pencil marking, even though I think maybe my
yeah,
natural tendency is to just pencil mark everything.
I don't generally do a lot of pencil marking. Yeah, I think I approach it a little bit like Simon does, where I'm trying to more just get an oversight of the kind of logic that is going on throughout the grid, and rather than just pencil marking every single cell. Yeah, just
Mhm.
try and get more of a overarching feel of what's going on. But yeah, sometimes I do have to resort to it though. This looks a lot better.
Yeah, so I've worked out that 8 is on the palindrome here, which probably means something for how this cage works. So yeah, if 8 is in this cage, it's not counted.
Mm,
So it just can't be in the cage. I think.
I agree.
And so that brings the palindrome through there.
I think the 8 cage is probably my favourite cage of the puzzle. Maybe, don't know why. It's not that
Yeah,
useful, but it's,
that's nice. I like that.
well,
It's I mean you really have a knack for coming up with disambiguators that are interesting.
yeah, I do try. I've got a bit of a soft spot for a nice ending. Yeah, one thing that I kind of learned a little while ago was that, yeah, when I'm watching other people's puzzles, one thing I really like is when the main logic of the puzzle takes you right to the end, so the last few cells that you're filling in. If you're still using the rule set at that point, I think it's just satisfying, isn't it? And I think, yeah, me and Sujoiku have had a bit of a yeah, Sudoku says that he likes a Sudoku ending, like because he's a big fan of classic Sudoku, so he doesn't mind it when like the last bit of the puzzle is just finding a lot of Sudoku kind of um, deductions
Yeah.
after you've finished up all the lines. Whereas I mean, sometimes that is necessary. I can't always manage it, and there is a little bit of Sudoku at the end of this one, to be fair. But yeah, if I can get a deadly pattern at the end, which uses the rule set to finish it off, I just always feel like that's a little tick, that's a little win for me if I can
Right.
manage that in a puzzle.
Yeah,
Um,
and this thing with the 5s and 9s is really nice.
but yeah, that's the ending of this puzzle is the fives and the nines, and yeah, I've already spoken quite a bit about the setting of this now, but yeah, I was going to talk a bit about it afterwards, and yeah, one of the things about this puzzle is the ending step took me about 2 days to come up with, and you're
Well,
basically at it. You're at it now, really. This is about the point in the setting where I needed one more cage to finish it off. Can you guess which cage that is? um,
yeah.
yeah, that one. So that's the last thing that I put in. Um, I won't say too much more yet because I don't want to spoil the last step.
Yeah, not exactly what to do with it. I mean, this digit can't be 5 or 9.
Yeah, that's it basically. Um, That's what I wanted people
Yeah, so,
to
so that
to
makes
have
it a
to
naked
do.
single, I guess.
And using the 12K as well, yeah, that there's only one option. Um, yeah, I basically wanted people to have to. The reason is because I just said like I like the kind of logic to go as far to the end as possible, and I got to this point where the palindrome was basically finished, and yeah, there's plenty of cages I could have put in that would have just led to you finishing it all off with the cage and with Sudoku, but I kind of wanted
Yeah,
to use. I wanted to use the fact that it's a palindrome for the last step. So I thought, yeah, you could use that 5-9 deadly pattern. And I wanted to make you have to color it so that you find a certain cell that sees 5 one way and a 9 the other way. That wouldn't be the case if it wasn't a palindrome. So it's kind of using the palindrome logic to rule out 5 and 9 from a particular cell. And then I wanted that deduction to finish the puzzle off. And
yeah,
yeah, I'll talk a
I
bit.
like that a lot. I like disambiguators that kind of reinforce the theme of the puzzle.
Yeah, me too. I think we are almost at GG. Here it comes. GG. Very well done.
Yeah, that's really nice. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you
We got
followed it exactly.
well, I
Ta-da.
mean we, we've got some time. I guess we don't have a hard finish at all, but I think if we want to try another one, you have something else in mind?
We can try another one. Would you like me just to quickly show you my little PowerPoint of how I set that?
Oh
And
yeah,
I've already spoken quite a bit, so I won't spend too long with it. But let's see
yeah,
if I can
no, take your
share.
time.
Uh, that's the puzzle you just solved. As I said earlier, it started with a puzzle I made 2 years ago called Must Sum, which is also palindrome based. And yeah, I just started thinking about other palindromes that I could use. This one was about these all these palindromes must sum to the same amount, so they all have the same total. Uh, and yeah, I think it's like a 1-star puzzle. It's actually quite an approachable one. Um, yeah, I put not on my list of things to set, and it was on there for a while. And then I was thinking about how it's actually surprisingly quite often that I make puzzles that come from the title. So these are some of the others that I made over the years um, of just silly puns and things that I thought of, put on my list, and then made them. And this was my Zithry when wet was uh, the most definite example of that, where everyone was setting zipper puzzles at the time. Because zipper was quite a new constraint that had just come out, um, which everyone was liking. I really enjoyed the zipper, and I wanted to make a puzzle called Zip 3 when wet before anyone else did because everyone was using all the zipper puns, and I wanted to make I wanted to make that before someone else did basically. So I kind of sped up my process of doing that. Um, anyway, I started playing around with not on. Oh, I don't know if you noticed, but that palindrome was an M shape in the puzzle. Um,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
pointed out in
yeah,
the comments. I saw that.
fair enough. So I just thought initially, I was just going to have a 2-cell palindrome because we're all the clues are about things that are not on the palindrome. I thought it might be quite funny if I just have like a 2-cell palindrome going diagonally across a box border, and then have all the other clues just talking about random cells that are nothing to do with the palindrome. Um, Started playing around. Then I thought maybe I could just make it a really small M like that. Um, as I started playing, I initially was just going to do it with arrows as well. I didn't have the idea of the cages till a lot later. So this is what I started setting playing with 2 years ago, and I just started putting a few arrows in, thinking that I could maybe have a few of these like arrows in box 5 here, uh, pencil marked to be like small numbers because they're all quite near the edge of the grid. So this row 5, column 4 would only see 3 cells, so it's got to be 1, 2, or 3. And then from that you can get some pencil marks. And then this one only going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the box already, it had to be a 5. You could start getting some numbers that way, and none of them are anything to do with the actual palindrome, except from the fact that they're not on it. And then right at the end, it would be a very small palindrome. It would kind of be a bit of a jokey ending. But what I find is that some of the funny little kind of trolling, silly ideas that I have, they don't always necessarily make for a very fun puzzle. I'd always, I'd rather have a fun puzzle than do a silly idea like that. So I started, making the M a bit bigger, but I was still finding that this arrow logic was quite repetitive, really, to actually get any digits placed, because a lot of them are not even pointing at the palindrome. So yeah, it just was getting a bit repetitive, and so I kind of got a bit fed up with playing around with it. And as usually happens with me, I came up with other ideas and they took over, and this kind of got shelved for a bit, just remained on my list without me doing any more to it. And then 2 years later, there was a puzzle prompt, I think, from LM Damasi in Skojo's Setting Saturdays prompt to make a path puzzle. And I like path puzzles, so I had a little look back through my list of ideas that I'd come up with. I thought this would be a good time to tick one off, to revisit my list and do something that I'd thought of a long time before and see if I can explore it a bit more. And I found Not On. I thought, yeah, let's give that another go. I started playing around with it a bit more. I remembered why I gave up on it, because the arrows logic on its own was a bit boring. But then I thought about the cages idea, which I liked because it fits really nicely with the Not On theme. They follow the same kind of logic of having something in them that you ignore if they're not on the palindrome. And yeah, the cages made it a lot more varied, a lot easier to force the way the palindrome was formed, so that the pathfinding elements of it became a little bit more part of the soul path. So this was my V1 on the left. This is the kind of work in progress of the V1, where I had a slightly smaller M. You can see some of the logic here made it to the final version, like the opening, the fact that there was a 44 cage here became a 43 cage in the finished one, but it had the same effects. Had that big cage there that did similar to the 22. Yeah, some of the elements were starting to come here, which I liked. And yeah, I actually finished this version, as I said, and it was a good puzzle and it worked. But yeah, I just felt it was missing some things that would make it even more interesting, like some more pathfinding logic, I think. And uh, yeah, I just thought I'll have another go now that I've tried the one. And yeah, second one came together a lot quicker up until this point, which is the ending basically. So finding an ending. I remember talking to Sir Joyko about this as I was trying to do it. I was spending 2 days just trying to find where to go from this point. As I said, I knew I wanted to use the 5 9s to color and to get down to a cell, which then you can remove the 5 9 option. And this, row 8, column 8 seemed like the perfect candidate for that, because it only had one other number in it. So that once you get rid of the 5 and the 9 from that, you've only got a 4 left, so that could potentially go a bit further. Yeah, basically, when you fill that in with a 4, it doesn't really do much. Yeah, you still get a massive whole load of cells that are not finished off. The ideal thing would be that you fill that with a 4 and it just finishes everything off. That didn't happen. I knew I needed one more clue in there, and I just tried for 2 days, like putting cages in places. And the problem was that any clue that I put in that finished it off after you put the 4 in, it was always like too much information, so that it basically meant that you could finish it without even doing that deduction. So yeah, I tried clues up here, maybe like a 10 cage here, so it has to be like 8 2, which did quite a lot. It actually like filled in quite a lot of stuff, but it also filled in this cell, which meant that it kind of ruined the deduction. So yeah, I needed something that wouldn't ruin that, but then once you put that in, it then finished it off, and that was like kind of almost also like finding a needle in a haystack. And yeah, the moment when I found that 12 cage there, which had the perfect kind of balance of uh, it didn't spoil anything because yeah, there's basically two ways to make a 12 cage there. One is the 453, which is the correct option, and then one would be 192. And the only basically, if you do 192, it finishes the grid perfectly, except for the fact that the palindrome is not working. The fives and the nines go around the other way, so that yeah, the fives and the nines don't map palindromically to each other. So you basically that's kind of proof that you have to use the palindrome to get that deduction. So yeah, it felt like that's probably one of the most satisfying little moments in my setting history when I found that perfect cage that finished that off. So yeah, that's the setting of that.